Assembly Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson.
Present.
Assemblywoman Black.
Here.
Assemblywoman Brown-May. Assemblywoman Considine. Assemblywoman Dickman.
Here.
Assemblywoman Duran.
Here.
Assemblyman Ellison.
Present.
Assemblywoman Martinez.
Present.
Assemblyman Matthews.
Here.
Assemblyman MacArthur.
Here.
Assemblywoman Thomas.
Here.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Here.
Chair Flores.
Present. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please let the record reflect that Assemblywoman Considine and Assemblywoman Brown-May are absent excused. Should they join us later in the meeting, please make sure to mark them as present. We do have a quorum. Good morning, members. As always, I look forward to today's dialogue. For those of you following us virtually, please know that we'll be taking the agenda slightly out of order. We'll be doing it in the reverse. So we'll be hearing Assembly Bill 357 first, followed by Assembly Bill 336, and then lastly, Assembly Bill 313. For those of you wishing to speak in public comment, know that we'll be doing that at the conclusion of today's hearing. And as always, I want to remind members of the public that you may see us looking in different directions. Don't take that as a sign of disinterest or disrespect. We all have multiple monitors and often are looking in different directions to pay attention. And with that, at this time, I'd like to open up the hearing on Assembly Bill 357. Good morning, Speaker.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Government Affairs Committee. For the record, my name is Jason Frierson. I represent Assembly District 8, and I'm Speaker of the Nevada State Assembly. I am here with representatives from the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada and the Attorney General's Office. We are here to present AB 357. The Attorney General's Office and our legal aid organizations have worked closely over the years to protect Nevada consumers from scams, fraud, predatory business practices, and unfair housing practices. This work has been primarily funded by the National Mortgage Settlement, and unfortunately, at a time when Nevadans need help the most from this funding, it is nearly exhausted. AB 357 will create a permanent funding mechanism, and it'll do so without impacting our state's general fund to continue this important work. The interested parties have worked very hard together to ensure the success of AB 357, and of course, they will walk you through the provisions of that bill. So with that, and I have worked very closely just regarding settlements over the years. I've worked alongside our Attorney General, Aaron Ford, certainly when he was the Senate Majority Leader, as well as former Speaker, Barbara Buckley, who was my predecessor in Assembly District 8. And those parties came together to work out how to continue this incredibly important work. So with that, I'd like to turn the presentation over first to the Attorney General, Aaron Ford, and his office to provide further remarks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, may I proceed?
Please. Morning and welcome.
Thank you again. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker and Chair Flores, members of the committee. Good morning. My name is Aaron Ford, and I am your Attorney General. I'm joined here today with several of my staff members, including Consumer Advocate Ernest Figueroa, Chief Consumer Counsel Mark Kruger, Chief Financial Officer Jessica Hoban, and Chief of Staff Jessica Adair. We are here to explain AB 357, which creates the Consumer Protection Legal Fund. On day 2 on the job here at the Office of Attorney General, I announced my priorities as Attorney General. I selected these priorities because of one of these priorities. I selected these priorities in many, which we talk about frequently, but one of these priorities is consumer protection. One person in this state, every person in this state is a consumer. Every business in this state is a consumer. Our economy, in the biggest sense and in the smallest sense, depends on consumers being able to make fair purchases based on accurate information. From big purchases like buying a house or a car to small purchases like the computer in front of you, you're all consumers. There are purchases you may not even consider to be consumer purchases, such as prescriptions or education. Nonetheless, you are a consumer. We trust that the good or the service that we purchase will be what it purports to be. But there are people who take advantage of that trust, people who prey on vulnerable consumers for their own greed. My office has devoted special attention to those who defraud Nevadans and violate the public trust. We investigate and prosecute scam and defraud Nevadans, and we take on some of the world's largest companies who deceive or fail to protect our consumers, and we win. Our ask of you is a simple one. Help us to continue doing our work. We, along with legal aid partners, have created a robust consumer protection effort in this state. But in order to be able to continue it, we need the resources to do our jobs. I will now ask Jessica Adair to explain the bill that will allow us to do just that. And Mr. Chair, if you would indulge me, I may have to jump off before the end of the hearing. Do I have your permission to do so?
Thank you, Attorney General Ford, for joining us. And absolutely, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, Chair Flores and members of the committee. My name is Jessica Adair for the record. Nearly 10 years ago, the Nevada Attorney General's office entered into a multi-state settlement and a separate state settlement with Bank of America as a result of the 2008 mortgage crisis. The national mortgage settlement was reached with 5 of the nation's largest banks and resulted in changes to the mortgage industry and $1.2 billion in borrower relief to Nevadans. The separate state settlement with Bank of America resulted in $87.3 million to the state of Nevada for consumer protection efforts. A majority of that funding was directed to the Department of Business and Industry to ameliorate the effects of the mortgage crisis. But a portion of that funding was designated to be used by the Attorney General's office. Then Attorney General Catherine Cortez Masto directed this funding to be used, among other things, in 2 distinct ways. First, the creation of positions in the AG's office to help Nevadans by thorough investigation and prosecution of consumer fraud. And 2, a grant program to legal aid organizations that provide consumer protection legal assistance to low-income Nevadans. In later years, guardianship and elder exploitation were added to the purpose of this program. The state saw an uptick in people abusing the guardianship process to defraud elderly Nevadans. While it is a fraud crime, this often coincides with physical abuse and neglect. This funding has been absolutely critical to our state and has helped so many Nevadans. In the past decade, the Attorney General's office has answered call after call from constituents who didn't know where to turn after being scammed. We've investigated and prosecuted countless fraudsters who steal from the vulnerable. And in the past year, this team has been an integral part of the state's COVID response, enforcing the governor's directive and mediating agreements between landlords and tenants to prevent evictions prior to the CDC order, directing hundreds of Nevadans in need of guidance after becoming a victim of unemployment fraud, and looking into complaints on price gouging to prevent people from taking advantage of a crisis to charge $25 for a roll of toilet paper, for example. But we all knew the time would come when this funding would be depleted. That day is here, and it could not come at a worse time for this state. If a new mechanism is not created to fund these efforts, our office could lose 26 full-time positions dedicated to consumer protection efforts. This includes attorneys in our Bureau of Consumer Protection who investigate violations of Nevada's consumer protection laws, such as Equifax, who was responsible for the largest consumer data breach in our country's history, and for-profit colleges that scammed young Nevadan military veterans trying to complete their degrees, for example. It also includes sworn peace officers who investigate fraud and elder abuse, prosecutors who bring justice to fraudsters, and administrative professionals who support these divisions and also serve in our constituent services unit, fielding thousands of complaints from Nevadans victimized by scams and fraud. In addition, legal aid organizations will lose millions in annual grant funding. We were faced with 3 choices. 1, end the program entirely, which is not acceptable. 2, ask this legislature for millions of dollars in general fund to replace this funding, which is not reasonable. Or 3, think outside of the box. So, with the input of stakeholders and legislative leadership, we crafted an alternate solution. AB 357 is simple in its design and efficient in structure. The goal is to direct this sporadic settlement funding to consumer protection needs. This is accomplished as follows. In sections 4, 5, and 6 of the bill, settlement funds are placed into a consumer protection administrative fund. There are some exceptions, such as restitution to victims and certain other recoveries. The Consumer Protection Administrative Fund replaces the fund already in existence for administrative purposes. This fund covers many of the administrative costs of consumer protection investigations and litigation and is designed to not fall below $500,000. For example, we use this fund to pay our share of costs in a multi-state investigation. In sections 2 and 3, funds not used for administrative purposes, which will be the bulk of the funding, are transferred from the Consumer Protection Administrative Fund into a Consumer Protection Legal Fund. The Consumer Protection Legal Fund is then divided into 2 equal amounts twice a year. 50% of that fund goes to fund the Attorney General's staff that work on consumer protection efforts and other consumer protection activities led by our office, such as public education. The other 50% would fund consumer protection efforts throughout the state by 3 legal aid nonprofit organizations: the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada, Nevada Legal Services, and Washoe Legal Services. The distribution between these 3 organizations in the bill reflects the current distribution of the Home Again funding to these organizations. Speaker Buckley will give additional details on the consumer protection efforts legal aid organizations provide to Nevadans in just a moment. For transparency and accountability, the legal aid organizations are also required to submit an audited statement regarding the use of the funding, and the Attorney General's office has the right to audit the legal aid organizations. This solution, while some may argue is not perfect because we have no way of anticipating incoming settlement funds to the state, is one that has the potential to be self-funding in its success. Some years, we might fall short of funding to pay for all staff. So just in case, this bill allows the Attorney General's office to request contingency funding from the Interim Finance Committee during a shortfall. However, some years we may have surplus funding. So the bill allows our office to carry forward revenue to manage our funding and avoid future shortfalls. Most importantly, this bill allows us to continue doing our jobs to help Nevadans. No one else in the state investigates and prosecutes fraud like the Attorney General's office. No one else in this state investigates and prosecutes individuals and companies who violate our consumer protection laws like the Attorney General's office. These lawsuits are what brings settlement funding into the state in the first place, and this bill preserves our ability to do our jobs and pays for those jobs. And no one else in this state provides legal assistance to low-income Nevadans on consumer protection issues like the legal aid organizations specified in this bill. Now, on that note, I would like to tender the mic with the chair's permission to Speaker Barbara Buckley, the Executive Director of Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada.
Hi, good morning, Speaker Buckley. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Barbara Buckley, and I'm the Executive Director of Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada. One of our most important programs at Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada is our Consumer Rights Project. In our system of law, the Attorney General's office can prosecute criminals and engage in lawsuits, actions against predatory and illegal behavior for its Consumer Protection Division. But it cannot represent individuals in their own actions. And that's where legal aid organizations come in. If you can afford your own attorney in a legal matter, that's fine. That is what we all need once in a while. But if you're poor, middle class, you can't afford an attorney. And that's where legal aid comes in. A good example of this dual role played by the Attorney General's office and legal aid organizations is in the area of guardianship fraud, one where we have collaborated. So the Attorney General's office can prosecute predatory guardians. I'm sure you're all aware of the scandal that we had in Nevada, 4 or 5 years ago in this area. What legal aid is able to do is we represent now every individual over whom a guardian is sought. We meet individually with that. Usually it's a senior. We find out what they want. And through those actions, we are able to file motions to remove guardians who only reason for being there is to strip the senior of every one of their assets. And that's what was happening before we jointly got involved. Individuals would be taken from their lovely homes that they had worked for their whole life, put in a group home. Their home was sold by a guardian who then paid themselves outrageous fees. This is the kind of fraud that can not only strip someone of their liberty and their life savings, but from which a senior can never really recover. And so that's just one type of representation we utilize with this funding. The others, they are so incredibly varied. It can be someone coming in because there's a lien on their house and they'd like to sell their house, but the lien is from a hospital for a medical debt that isn't theirs. Scams galore. One of my favorites was Uber, not UBER, but UBRE, which convinced individuals. One individual's bought 5 vehicles in one day for a partnership interest in Uber. Ultimately, the Attorney General's office stepped in. Our office represented the individual and got all that rescinded because it was a fraudulent scam. So as mentioned by the Attorney General's office, legal aids, their office have been funded by the National Mortgage Settlement Act, which is running out of money at a time when their office and our office needs this funding more than ever. We hope this innovative approach to funding can prevent these catastrophic cuts, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Speaker Frierson, were we hoping to go to someone else, or would we want to open up to questions now?
It's gone.
And we may be having some technical issues with Speaker Frierson, but at this time, we'll open it for questions. I do know that we have Speaker Buckley ready for that and the Attorney General's office. So members, we'll open it for questions at this time, and we'll start off with Assemblyman Ellison, please.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. And Ms. Buckley, I'm really glad that you guys are following up with some of these complaints. And I've seen this firsthand where people lost their life savings due to family members that were greedy. So I'm really happy to see that this program is going to go forward. One thing I didn't understand when the presentation was this is going to be expanded program, or is this going to be a new program?
Jessica Adair for the record, if I may. This is an existing program. This program is currently funded with the National Mortgage or the Bank of America state settlement that was reached in 2012. And we are at the end of that funding. So what this bill does is it allows us to use future settlement funding, split it in half. Half goes to the AG's office to continue our existing consumer protection efforts, and half goes to legal aid organizations so that they can continue the good work that they have been doing. But without our ability to utilize future settlement funds in this way, the funding will be depleted and we'll have to end these programs.
And thank you very much.
And thank you, Assemblyman. We'll continue with questions. Members, I'm checking through the chat now. Next, we'll go to Assemblywoman Anderson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Speaker Frierson, Speaker Buckley, and General Ford for presenting. My question has to do, such a great bill. My question actually has to do with the division as explained in Section 3, B1 through 3, with how that percentages are being cut out or divided out. Is that due to the population or is that due to the usage of the past time frame?
Thank you, Jessica Adair, for the record. And I want to allow Speaker Buckley to speak on this as well. But the distribution that is in the bill is the current distribution of funding right now. So we did not change or alter that funding. Right now, under the existing Home Again program, it is a reimbursement basis. So what we set a certain authority for legal aid organizations to spend. They send us essentially an invoice of what they have spent, and it's mostly staff salaries for the staff who are working on this program, and reimbursement. So it's on a reimbursement basis. This would change this slightly, and that it would no longer be a reimbursement basis, but just 50% of the proceeds would go to legal aid organizations. But of course, they still have to provide an accounting to the state to ensure that that funding is being sent in the appropriate manner. But to your first point, Assemblywoman, the distribution is what is currently being utilized in the Home Again program.
And this is Barbara Buckley. Mr. Chair, if I may jump in as well. Thank you. When the legal aid organizations requested this funding from the Attorney General's office, each organization presented a budget and were able to try to utilize other funding to blend it to make it work. So partly the amounts in the original budgets were based on that, and Chief of Staff Adair's explanation as to the distribution is exactly correct. It represents current funding levels.
So thank you very much. That clarifies the distribution and percentage. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Members, any additional questions?
Mr. Chair, it's Assemblyman Matthews.
Please.
I had one, but I also see, looks like Assemblywoman Black got into the queue there before
I don't know,
me.
can you hear me?
I don't want to.
Or my mic may not be working.
Didn't want to jump the
I
line.
can hear you, please.
Okay, thank you. So it looks like right now any funds over $450,000 that are not used in the Attorney General Special Fund essentially would go into this Consumer Protection Administrative Fund. Right now, they would revert back to the general fund. Do we know how much over the last couple bienniums that have been contributed into the general fund from this over the 450?
Thank you, Assemblywoman Jessica Adair, for the record. So currently, the settlement funding usually comes into that special fund, and then a portion of that goes to the consumer protection administrative purposes. And so that's why we're setting up that consumer protection administrative fund. Oftentimes before that settlement funding is reverted to the general fund at the end of the fiscal year, the Attorney General's office uses a work program process through the Interim Finance Committee to distribute that settlement funding in a different way. So in the past few years, we have for example, we have used about $2 million for emergency rental assistance in the eviction crisis. We spent, I can't remember the exact figure, but I think about $450,000 to $500,000 on ballistic protective equipment for local law enforcement agencies and fire departments. So we set up a grant program for that. So oftentimes we use that funding before it reverts to the general fund. I don't have an exact figure for what has been reverted to the general fund, but usually the Attorney Generals and from AG Ford and his predecessors have used the settlement funding to fund a variety of other projects throughout the state.
Thanks. If there's any way to get that at some point, not right now, I know that's on the fly, so I apologize for that. I have a follow-up if you'll allow it, Mr. Chair.
Follow up, please.
And I'm curious, do we have any, or is there any indication or idea about how much money you might receive from that opioid lawsuit?
Thank you for asking that question, Assemblywoman Jessica Adair, for the record, because I think this is an important point that we make on the record. In the bill, in section 3A, nope, not that section. In the bill, there is a specific provision that prevents certain recoveries from being diverted to the Consumer Protection Administrative and Legal Funds, and that includes contingency fee counsel recoveries. So litigation, because we have contingency fee counsel for the opioid litigation would not be subject to the Consumer Protection Legal Fund. And whereas in the existing McKenzie settlement, and I imagine future opioid litigation, it will be by court order that funding be used for opioid remediation and abatement specifically. That is the appropriate use of that funding for the opioid litigation. So it would not be used for the Attorney General's Office consumer protection efforts or for legal aid unless there was a court order to do so.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, that is in section 4, line 8.
Thank you, Speaker Buckley.
Thank you. And now we can go to Assemblyman Matthews, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Attorney General, Ms. Adair, and Speaker Buckley. Appreciate the presentation. I certainly find the intent here important and laudable. My only concern would be, I guess, with the issue of legislative oversight. Conceivably, we could end up with very significant amounts of money going into this fund, as opposed to the general fund. And I'm, wondering, my instinct is to say that lawmakers ought to be sort of empowered to a degree to appropriate this fund as needed, to this new effort, and potentially use other funds for other purposes as needed, at the discretion of the legislature. Why not have some of these funds go to the general fund where legislators can kind of have some say and some input as opposed to default going to this? Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman Jessica Adair, for the record. For a few reasons. The vast majority of the settlements that we've agreed to in these multi-state investigations and lawsuits, or in our interstate consumer protection lawsuit, the settlement agreement states that the funding is awarded to the state of Nevada shall be dispersed at the discretion of the Attorney General. So this piece of legislation would actually be the legislature taking that discretion away from the Attorney General. And it would be the legislatures stating in statute that their intent would be that all future settlement funding be used to further consumer protection efforts in the state. While I agree with you that the general fund supports many, many important programs, the purpose ultimately of settlement funding has been and always should be to further consumer protection efforts. We get that funding because a consumer protection law was broken. And as punishment, the offender shall pay the state of Nevada to compensate it for that violation of consumer protection laws. In the past 2 years, every time I have gone before the Interim Finance Committee with a work program to spend this settlement funding, the first question I always get is, how does this relate to consumer protection? Sometimes the nexus between consumer protection and how we spend the settlement funding isn't clear. This will make it abundantly clear that all future settlement funding is being used for the purpose of consumer protection and to the betterment of Nevadans in that regard.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next, we'll go to Assemblywoman Dickman, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Good to see you, Attorney General Ford, and thank you for being here. I just have a quick question. I'm just kind of curious. So we've just about run out of the Bank of America settlement money, and just wondering if there's anything, if there's current litigation right now that you expect to receive some funding or any kind of funding coming, because also I see that if we don't have the money, we go to IFC to ask for funds from them. So do we have any idea how much we'll be able to start this fund out with, or where we go from there?
Thank you, Assemblywoman Jessica Adair, for the record. So these funds are very sporadic. We really have no idea we have no way of anticipating the amount or recovery that we might receive. Our office is constantly engaged in multi-state investigations. Sometimes those investigations don't come to fruition with a lawsuit. Sometimes the settlement between the states, the distribution between the states is very fact specific about the harm that occurred in each state. Historically, though, on average, we have received about $3 million, give or take, per year. Some years we have more, some years we have less. But Assemblywoman, to your specific point about us being able to go to IFC, I think an important feature of the bill is that these funds do not revert to the general fund at the end of the year. And the purpose of that is so that we can carry forward that funding and better anticipate those shortfalls. So if we know that we have received a large settlement, being able to carry forward that settlement for several years and continue sustainably funding our staff allows us to prevent those shortfalls in the future. If we were forced to spend that money to zero every fiscal year, we wouldn't be, or even every biennium, I think we would be coming to IFC much more frequently because we wouldn't be able to put something in reserve. And I want to, if Speaker Buckley wants to speak to how this feature would allow her to better manage the funding for legal aid organizations, I want to give her that opportunity. But I'll note that the ability to go to IFC only applies to the AG's office. It does not apply to legal aid. And then I also got a note from our staff during this testimony to answer Assemblywoman Black's question. We have not reverted any settlement funding in the past several years to the general fund. We can get you more historical data on that, but I wanted to put that on the record before the hearing ended.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that response. And I agree. I don't think it makes much sense to put it back in the general fund and then go to IFC to get it back. I was just wondering if you knew of anything on the horizon that might bring in some funding.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, and Jessica Adair, if you wouldn't mind me jumping in on this one. I'll say this, Assemblywoman, it's great to see you again as well. As Jessica Adair indicated, we have many pieces of litigation percolating right now. Litigation, investigations. Yeah, and it's just very difficult to anticipate when those may settle, when those may resolve. When litigation is going to ultimately ensue after conversations. And so, yes, there are things in the hopper, so to speak, but there's really no way of being able to determine when we might can expect money to come in from those.
That's exactly what I was wondering. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. I am once again checking the chat to see if we have any additional questions. I don't believe we do, but members, if I accidentally skipped you, please feel free to unmute yourself at this time. I don't believe we have any additional questions. So at this time, I'd like to open it up for testimony in support of Assembly Bill 357. And I will first go to those of you joining us virtually to ensure that we don't have somebody here wishing to testify in support. I do see that we have our executive director from Washoe Legal Services. Hi, good morning. Welcome to you, and please, whenever you're ready.
Good morning. For the record, I'm Dionne Contine. I'm the executive director at Washoe Legal Services. I just wanted to thank Attorney General Ford and Speaker Frierson and Speaker Buckley for all the work that they've done on this. I've only been in this job for about a year, so when I came in, there was knowledge that this funding source was going away, we'd had to account for that in our budgeting. Again, just want to note my support and thankful for maintaining this program.
And thank you for joining us. We'll continue with those wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 357. I don't believe we have anybody else joining us via camera, do we? Oh, I do see our Ernest Figueroa. Are you here to testify in support of Assembly Bill 357?
Good evening, Chair. I'm just here to testify and answer questions in support of Jessica Adair and Attorney General.
Okay, perfect.
Presentation.
Just wanted to make sure. Thank you. So at this time, we'll go to the phone lines and we'll invite those wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 357. Broadcast, please.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 357, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 897, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Doreen Spears Hartwell, and that's DOREEN SPEARS, Hartwell HARTWELL. Good morning. My name is Doreen Spears Hartwell, and I'm one of 2 individuals speaking on behalf of the Access to Justice Commission in support of AB 357. As a member of the Access to Justice Commission, chair of the Pro Bono Advisory Council for the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada, and an attorney who handles pro bono consumer fraud matters, I'd like to thank the Attorney General's office and Speaker Frierson for AB 357. Recent legal needs studies show that more than 76% of legal needs of low-income Nevadans go unmet. And as you've heard, consumer protection is a critical function provided by our legal aid providers, and substantial funding is being lost as a result of various factors, including a reduction in IOLTA interest or IOLTA accounts, amongst other factors. Unfortunately, AB 357 will help to address future funding issues. And so, again, just on behalf of the Access to Justice Commission, and also as an attorney, also who does pro bono work with regards to consumer protection, thank you, and we appreciate your consideration and support of this bill.
And thank you for joining us this morning. Next caller, next caller wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 357.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 080, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, Jim Hoffman, HOFFMAN, Nevada Attorneys for Criminal Justice. NACJ supports AB 357. Consumer protection is an important goal, especially for low-income populations. But these same populations are disproportionately impacted by mass incarceration. In many cases, criminalizing consumer fraud is hurting the people we're trying to protect. To avoid this harm, NACJ believes that consumer protection should be primarily addressed through civil enforcement rather than criminalization. In making this argument, We found that a common response is that the Attorney General and others would like to be doing more civil enforcement actions, but that there is a recurring funding problem. AB 357 helps to solve this problem and makes it easier for consumer protection to be conclusively dealt with in a civil context, providing the maximum level of protection to vulnerable people. Therefore, NACJ strongly supports AB 357. Thank you.
And thank you. We'll continue with support, Assembly Bill 357.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 357, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 357.
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 357, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. And lastly, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in the neutral position for Assembly Bill 357.
To testify in the neutral position for Assembly Bill 357, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in the neutral position at this time.
Thank you. And we'll come back to any closing remarks we may have from either one of our speakers joining us or the Attorney General's office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Jason Frierson. I just want to thank the committee for their attention and questions on such an important issue and an existing program that I don't believe Nevadans can run the risk of losing moving forward. So it's all about being prepared with a structure in place to best serve the needs of our state. So I thank you all for your consideration and urge your support.
Thank you, Speaker Frierson. Did we have any closing remarks from any one of your co-presenters?
I believe the Attorney General had to leave, so I don't know if either Ms. Adair or if Speaker Buckley had any closing remarks.
Thank you. I do see that our Attorney General Ford may have come back, or I think I just saw him leave now. So I think we're good there. Speaker Buckley, please.
My only closing remark is to thank you all so much for hearing this bill today and would appreciate your support.
Thank you. And Ms. Adair, any closing remarks?
No, Chair, thank you so much for hearing this bill. I want to thank Speaker Frierson for bringing this bill. And if anybody on the committee has any further questions, our office is always available. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We'll try to get you answers as soon as we can because we know the deadline's coming up. So thank you so much for your support.
And thank you all for joining us this morning. We look forward to continue our work alongside of you. With that, we'll close out the hearing on Assembly Bill 357. And I am now checking those of you joining us. I want to make sure we have Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno joining us. Perfect. I see Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe Moreno has joined us. And I will now open up the hearing on Assembly Bill 336. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Chair Flores and the members of the Assembly Government Affairs Committee. For the record, I am Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe Moreno, and I represent Assembly District 1, which is primarily in the city of North Las Vegas with a small portion of the city of Las Vegas. I'm here today to present for your consideration Assembly Bill 336. A measure that will provide peace officers with an opportunity to have an annual behavioral health care wellness visit. Joining me today is my co-sponsor, Assemblyman Tom Roberts, Ms. Michelle Freeman, who is a retired chief from the city of Las Vegas, and Mr. Joe Collins, who is a retired police chief from Two Rivers Police Department, and Ms. Taryn Hyatt, who is the area director for American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, along with Officer Antonio Rodriguez and other therapists and counselors working in the behavioral health care arena. Chair Flores and committee, for me, AB 336 is very personal. Prior to having the opportunity to serving the families of Nevada here in this legislative body, I served for almost 30 years as a corrections officer, beginning my career with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office before joining the North Las Vegas Police Department Detention Center. The position afforded me the opportunity to interact with my community and serve it in so many ways outside of the jail facility. It may sound crazy, but I truly enjoyed my career. I oftentimes fought for the working conditions for myself, my colleagues, the civilian employees that I worked with, while at all times ensuring the safety and well-being of both the staff and the inmates in our care. I guess once an officer and part of the law enforcement family, you're always an officer. It doesn't leave you. Many of the widely publicized events of 2020 caused me pain, deep pain. I hurt as a Black woman in America. I hurt as a mother and as a grandmother. But I also hurt as a retired law enforcement officer. Peace officers are our modern day superheroes. They're the ones that run towards danger when others are running away. While some truly are heroes, all of us, all of our peace officers are first and foremost people. We are humans with the same stressors that life has to offer: family, health, financial, marital issues. And they balance all of that, the everyday rigor, with the battles of the additional workplace stressors. Often seeing and experiencing the worst of the worst that society has to offer, encountering situations that are simply unimaginable. For most, the stress is easy to adjust to and handle, but for others, the stress can become overwhelming. It can either become an internal battle that can erupt into violence on the job, in their home, or against themselves. Officers are the ones to give help, and they don't often ask for help. I have personally, as some of the others that will be joining me to present this bill today, have witnessed when that help is not received. During the hiring process, I had to fill out an application, had a personal interview, a physical test, a psych evaluation, and annually, I had to have that physical exam again to ensure that I could continue to be medically and physically fit to continue to do my job. But never was my emotional or mental health and wellness discussed, unless, of course, there was a negative incident on the job, which I think we can all agree is sometimes too late. AB 336 is my attempt to continue helping the men and women that I worked with, my law enforcement family. An opportunity to have that conversation that just might save the life of an officer or a member of the community that that officer should be protecting. Today, you'll hear testimony from current and retired law enforcement professionals, as well as behavioral health care professionals, as to why this legislation is just, timely, but extremely necessary. This is not meant to be a tool for police administrations to use against their staff members, but it's a step in the right direction to help an officer to save a life and to change the culture of our law enforcement agencies. The overwhelming benefits of AB 336 in police departments, correctional centers, and all areas serviced by peace officers will not be seen overnight. It will take time. So with your permission, Mr. Chair, I'd like to turn the presentation over to my co-presenters, starting with Assemblyman Roberts, who I'm sure may have to jump back into another committee member meeting, and then go on to Ms. Michelle Freeman, and then Joe Collins.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Assemblyman Roberts, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and distinguished members of the committee. And I'll be really brief because I think my co-sponsor did a phenomenal job of explaining the need for this bill. But I'll just talk a little bit about my 34 years in law enforcement. I spent 9 in the Air Force and almost 25 at Metro. During my tenure at Metro, we had 31 employees commit suicide while I was there. 10 of those I knew closely. I worked with them closely. 2 were trainees of mine. I actually trained these 2 gentlemen. And 1 that killed himself in the last year actually worked with me up here in this body, testifying, doing government affairs work here at the legislature. It is personal and it is up close. And these are the folks that didn't get noticed, that didn't get the help that they needed. And I won't say that there's countless people that aren't getting any help. There's great employee assistance programs in all these police departments. The visits and contacts have tripled over the years, and they're even higher now more than ever based on the issues that occurred last year and on the heels of October 1 in our community. I'll just tell you that a lot of folks don't have, they don't come forward on their own. They believe they can handle some of these things themselves. And that's why I believe it's so important that we put this little status check, this annual status check in every officer's life, so that that one conversation may be the tipping point that would reduce these numbers that I just told you today. So I look forward to the rest of the testimony, and any questions, I'll remain here with my co-presenters.
Thank you, Assemblyman. And I know we had a couple more co-presenters. Whoever wishes to go next.
Thank you, Chair Flores. This is Michelle Freeman for the record. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ron Sosa, Jean Oliver, Emmanuel Waiters, Ronald Payne, and Reuben Hood worked for the City of Las Vegas Department of Public Safety, and all died by suicide. They were not only officers, they were fathers, sons, brothers, and friends. I recently retired after serving with the City of Las Vegas Department of Public Safety for over 28.5 years. I was in a formal leadership position for over 2 decades, and the last almost 10 years, I had the privilege to serve as the chief. I've been a board member for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, otherwise known as AFSP, since 2013, and I'm currently completing my doctoral degree in public policy, focusing on suicide awareness and prevention for law enforcement officers. I stand here today with Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno and the others you will hear from in support of AB 336. My testimony represents myself. According to AFSP, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and the 8th leading cause of death in Nevada. This is not something we want to be leading in. We know the information is underreported when it comes to suicide, primarily because of the stigma surrounding it. In the United States, from 2016 to 2019, according to the Officer Down Memorial page, there were 704 officers who died in the line of duty, and according to Blue Health, officer suicides in the same time frame were 740. That is 36 more officers who died by their own hands. Although this is nationwide stats, it's important to recognize for various reasons, including that officers move from one agency to another, from state to state, and when they do, they carry their trauma with them. Over my tenure, I have personally witnessed firsthand trauma and tragedy. I've received calls and visits from employees asking me to help them, not because of anything other than the officer was now in trouble. In one instance, I responded on the weekends to a bar, not as their supervisor, as a caring individual, to ensure that officer could get the assistance that they needed. Officers are humans like everyone else. The difference is that their personal lives have an extra layer on top of that. They're exposed to all that comes with them during their career as they serve their community. When I first started, I was told, leave your baggage at the door. My baggage that was being referred to was my personal baggage. and then I should pick it up on the way home after work. Compartmentalizing for your entire career is not only unrealistic, it's unhealthy. Why should you care? Officers' well-being and suicide affects everyone. It is a public health and safety concern. Whether it's a call for service or a routine patrol, don't we all want all of our officers to be of healthy mind and body? Through my doctoral work, I conducted a short survey. My goal, as stated in the survey, is to prevent suicide and assist law enforcement officers who are struggling with their mental health, and to assist with changing the law enforcement culture by normalizing conversations around mental health and suicide prevention. It was important for all current and retired law enforcement officers in our state to have an opportunity to have their voice heard, as well as learn from their perspective. Additionally, the goal was to create a baseline for further research. The survey was shared with the executive director of the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. He distributed that survey to all of our Nevada sheriffs and chiefs, and it was up to them and their discretion to further disseminate. I am excited to report that the survey was conducted within a short two-week time frame, and there were 844 respondents. Here, our officers. 2 relevant questions and responses from the survey in regards to this bill are: do you know any law enforcement officers who have either thought about, attempted, or died by suicide? Out of 839 respondents for this particular question, 579 said either yes or maybe. Another relevant question I'd like to bring to your attention, not verbatim, however, it's: do you believe it is beneficial to have a confidential mental health component on an annual basis? Out of the respondents, there were 840 respondents. 95% of the respondents said yes or maybe. Those are local law enforcement officers here in our state. In 2019, 2 amendments to 2 of our statutes occurred. First, the allowance for compensation for officers if an injury or disease is caused by a stress-related injury. And second, an addition to mandatory education for peace officers, including mental health and officer well-being. We're obviously recognizing that suicide awareness, prevention, and officer well-being is important. Bill 336 allows for a preventative annual wellness visit to help normalize speaking to a mental health professional about mental health and suicide prevention in general, and having those conversations. Why would we want to wait until we're compensating an officer if we could help prevent compensation and save lives? I am here to tell you that a smile on a face does not mean an officer isn't suffering in silence. Typically in our profession, we learn our motto in the academy: no one gets left behind. Officer Hood sat next to me during my entire academy. Officer Hood died by suicide. Officer Hood was left behind. In my image, in my mind, I see an empty chair. Empty chairs matter. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, Chair and committee members, for considering this bill. I know together we can make a difference, saving lives and ensuring our communities are as safe as possible. And the time to do it is right now. Thank you again.
And thank you for joining us. And I believe we have one more presenter.
Hi, thank you, Chair. My name is Joe Collins, and currently I work for Acadia Healthcare, which is the largest behavioral health provider in the world. I retired in February of 2020 as a police chief in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, after 35 years in law enforcement, 21 years as a police chief in 2 different communities. During my tenure, I was actually the lead chairperson for the law enforcement death response team for Wisconsin. During those 10 years, we had 13 line of duty deaths and 27 suicides that we knew about. So more than double officers were taking their lives than they were losing their lives in the line of duty. It's imperative that we do what we can to help officers around the world. Some of the other things that we do now is that currently I work as a public safety liaison. I help first responders, their organizations, their their agencies, their family members navigate the behavioral health world in trying to find them appropriate care and different levels of care. When I was a police chief for the last 9 years, we did officer wellness visits with a therapist at our agency. And it went from building trust to the point where that person was going to be retiring after the 9 years that I was there, and having the head of the unions come to us and say who is going to be replacing our mental health provider, because we scheduled visits for every one of our employees, including our administrative staff. And I have gone through the same type of situations. You heard about the officers that died in the city, 31. You heard the list of names that Michelle Freeman talked about. I've also had close personal friends who have taken their lives during the 35 years in my career in law enforcement. And this just seems like the most natural progression for what you're doing in the state of Nevada. You've already accepted the idea that it's important to have medical and mental screenings when someone comes in to be hired in the job. You've added training during their career to be able to make them aware of officer wellness issues and how important that is. You've accepted the fact that stress injuries occur as a result of working as a first responder. So now what we have to do is get upstream. We have to get upstream and make sure that we figure out why people are falling into this trauma. Chief Freeman talked about the traumas and the different situations that people face. A normal person faces trauma throughout their life, a handful of traumas. Statistically, first responders across the country are encountering 3.5 large, significant trauma situations every 6 months of their career. And if you do the math during a 20-year career, that's more than 140. And you go out to a 30-year career potentially, they're seeing 200 significant trauma situations during their career. And we must give them the ability to release that trauma from their body. That's cumulative trauma. And unless there are active resources involved and people actually manage that trauma body, it'll destroy them. And that's what we see when people are taking their lives, is they didn't have the resources, they didn't have the ability to communicate with someone, or they didn't feel safe. The University of Phoenix also did a study back in 2019. And what it shows is that 85% of first responders have suffered some type of significant trauma that has impacted their lives negatively in some way. In that same survey, what they said is that 55% said that they would be viewed differently by their supervisors if they asked for help. And an additional 70% said that mental health services are seldom or never used because of the culture. They believe that they'll be looked differently by their supervisors, by the people that they work with, because this is not a normal conversation. And it's not normal to see a therapist within the first responder community. And this is a way of changing that. Our officers and our staff, when they went to see the first responder therapist that we had, everybody did it. So it was a normal activity. And it saved people's lives and it saved marriages as a result. And we need to be able to do that. So I'm here to support it. I work with first responders every single day. I talk to them. I talk to their agencies across the country. And trauma is one of the most significant things that we're dealing with for people that are actually asking for help and needing help. So I thank you for your time. And I will yield back to the group as we have a couple more presenters. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe next we have Ms. Hyatt.
Yes, thank you so much. Good morning, Chair Flores and Vice Chair Torres and committee members. Thank you so much for your service and doing the people's work amongst a time that has been really critical for all of us. I just want to also extend my gratitude to Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno and Assemblyman Roberts for bringing forth this bill. My name is Taryn Hyatt. I serve as the area director for our Nevada and Utah chapters of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And law enforcement and first responder suicide prevention is a public policy priority for our organization. We are so thrilled with the progress that we have seen in the state of Nevada, as mentioned, already recognizing this as an issue. We know that we lose more of our first responders to suicide than we do in the line of duty, as has already been discussed. And that is a tragedy that we can prevent. We know that our officers, like has been mentioned, experience occupational trauma. But in addition, law enforcement officers and other first responders tend to work in these cultures that discourage help seeking. They look at it as more of a sign of weakness, which contributes to that reluctance to seek help or to self-disclose mental health or struggles that they're experiencing, especially suicidal thoughts. We owe it to them to support a change in that culture where we identify help seeking as a sign of strength. Suicide is prevented through early detection, as we know. So when we can recognize that an officer is in crisis or struggling with a mental health condition, we connect that officer and their family to support and resources. We save lives. So I'm here to urge you to support AB 336. We want to ensure that all law enforcement officers and departments have the knowledge and tools to effectively prevent officer suicide. And I love that this idea of providing an opportunity for a mental health assessment. We are establishing equity between mental health and physical health. We are saying this is just as important, if not more so. We know that there's no single cause for suicide, but by preventing mental health conditions, addiction, again, addressing access to lethal means and empowering our law enforcement officers to live and thrive in their communities, we save lives. Our Nevada chapter members have been working hard, on some public policy priorities this year. I'm so grateful for Michelle and her leadership. And just again, we would love to see this bill move forward. I want to end just quickly with a personal experience. In 2002, I lost my dad to suicide. I was the one who found him. And I will never forget the first officer who arrived on scene, who, as he approached me, said, "It's Terry, isn't it?" and held me in his arms until the EMTs arrived. And then he passed me off to the paramedic, who I ugly cried all over. I'm sure he had snot down his shirt, but he held me and supported me. I could share hundreds of stories about my experiences with law enforcement and traumatic situations, and yet I was just one of the many events and calls that they responded to that day. I am full of compassion for the trauma that our officers witness, that they incur, and that they survive. And it is incumbent upon us to create a culture that supports them. We all have a role to play in preventing suicide, and with your support, passage of this legislation will affirm the state's commitment to saving lives of Nevada's peace officers and prevent the tragedy of loss of life to suicide. Thank you so much for your consideration. And if you have comments or questions, you're welcome to connect with me. And again, I thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Ms. Hyatt, and we appreciate your willingness to use your story as a source of empowerment for other Nevadans. Next, we'll go to Mr. Rodriguez.
Hello? Hello, hello?
Hi, Mr. Rodriguez, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, sir. For the record, my name is Officer Antonio Rodriguez. I work for the City of Las Vegas Department of Public Safety, and I'm going on my 20th year working at a department that I love and care for. I'm not here talking to you today as a correction officer for my department, but I'm talking to you today as the Vice President for the state of Nevada for the National Latino Peace Officers Association. Our association is an association that cares for all of its members. It's not just closed to one race or one ethnicity, but it's more open to members for us to support and help them during their law enforcement career. And hopefully their career is a good one, a successful one with many good things to offer, But my passion for community is what brought me to this association, and to share that I was always the type of officer to be there for others. As I was there for other people, at one point in my career, I had a moment where I was in, let's just say, for lack of a better word, I was hurt by an accusation that was made. This accusation led me to go into an investigation that ended up me deciding that, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to dishonor my department. At the same time, I know what I did and did not do. During this time, I really truly thought that I was helpless, hopeless, and had negative thoughts. I even thought of killing myself. During this time, as I was thinking these thoughts, you know, Michelle Freeman was our chief at the time, reached out to me. Her love and her compassion for her fellow officers as a chief to a officer was amazing. And it was people like her that helped me through. Now, just to let you know and share that our department now has people such as Jeff McClish, who is our department's mental and emotional wellness administrators. Jeff's role saves lives, just as many other agencies that have just previously spoke save lives. It's people that are in place at detention centers, at law enforcement, at first responder places, what helps save lives. See, a lot of officers, when they feel helpless, hopeless, and emotional, they don't reach out to other people. I can tell you firsthand on my experience, and as people don't reach out, what they do is they find comfort in certain places such as bars, casinos, or whatever the case may be. Sad thing is officers, when they hold their emotion in, they hold it in for a long time. And it takes that right emotional breakdown or situation to happen to where at that point, the decision of suicide comes to play. Now, I've responded to several officers and talked them through situations. But at the same time, I have to believe that there is a better way. And with AB 336 being in play, I think that could absolutely help officers, because a lot of the public doesn't see what we see. A lot of the public doesn't know what we know. And the thing is, with these past couple of years, officers have been seen as being abusive of their power, when in case it's not the case at all. But the public sees things in a certain light where they don't understand, or they may not know the situation or the totality of the circumstances. Now, with that being said, something that puts AB 336 into effect will not only help the officer, will not only give a avenue for preventing suicide, but also an avenue to help them become emotionally stronger to better serve the community. Excuse me. Nowhere in our oath does it say that officers will run from danger, not risk their lives, and not sacrifice everything to assure the safety and protection of their own. Having a bill that proposes support and help for our officers and first responders is essential, and the lack of the support of this bill passed just says that our heroes' mental struggles are not important. They're only important when they're needed. And the truth is, officers are humans too. Officers have feelings. And if we do pass something like this, all it's doing is saying that a hero's life matters. Ladies and gentlemen, heroes need help too. Thank you very much. And I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Next, we'll go back to Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, who I believe will walk us through the bill at this time. Assemblywoman, I believe you're on mute. No. Broadcast, if we could have you walk her through this, please.
Awesome. Hi, this is Cindy with Broadcast. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, if you could try toggling with the microphone setting. That's the caret that's right above the microphone on the left-hand corner. And try switching to same as system.
I don't believe we can hear you yet, Assemblywoman. Broadcast, any other suggestions?
We can also try doing the test microphone setting. You see that also in the caret. Go ahead and click that. Then you should get a setting where you're able to hear and you can see, then you can see. Another option that we can have you do is we could have you call in, if you're okay with that, Assemblywoman. Okay, so right where you see the little triangle, go ahead and click where it says switch to phone audio, and it will have information for you on what to dial, and then the meeting ID and the participant ID.
I thought I heard her if she wants to try talking one more time.
Any luck, Assemblywoman?
No.
Nope, we still can, unfortunately.
I see her phone number and I just went ahead and admitted it in.
Oh,
Assemblywoman,
perfect.
if you try.
No.
No, I did admit your phone number already.
This is the weirdest thing.
I can hear you now, Assemblywoman. You do sound distant.
So if I put it by my ear, perhaps that would be better.
Yes, or if you have headphones that you can connect, also that would work as well.
I do not. Not with me.
Does this work for everyone? Chair, would this work for you?
Yes, I think we can hear you now, Assemblywoman. If you'd like to turn off your video, I know there's a delay between you speaking to your phone and the video that may throw some folk off, but I think if you just speak directly into your phone, it's perfect.
Okay. How was that?
That we can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Perfect. Talk about stress. Whoa. All right. Thank you, Chair Video. Thank you, committee, for your patience with the technical issues. As you look at Assembly Bill 336 as it was originally printed, it stated standards for behavioral health care assessment for peace officers, which must be completed in conjunction with the annual medical examination to aid in preserving the emotional and mental health of the peace officer and assessing conditions that may affect the performance of duties by the peace officer. In my research after the drafting of the bill, I was surprised to learn that not every police agency in the state of Nevada actually has an annual medical assessment. And that's a conversation for a different day, not today. But because of that, we wanted the language to truly match the intent. So in the amendment that you see before you today, it removes in conjunction with the medical examination because not all agencies have that. But also in working with the professionals that you've heard today and some that you'll hear on the telephone as they testify in support, having the healthcare assessment was not truly the intent. It was more of a wellness visit, a visit where a peace officer can have a protected conversation to discuss the issues that they are dealing with. And that conversation should remain confidential unless the officer displays a risk of harm to themselves or to others. The goal is to have an emotional and mental health issues to be treated in the same manner that a department would treat a physical and medical health issue. And further discussion with other local municipalities about this piece of legislation, we know that there's going to be an expense associated with it, and it may take time to find that funding. So it was agreed that the effective date should be moved from January 1st, 2022 to January 1st, 2023. I have been actively looking at grants that would help departments secure the funding needed. And one is an organization called COPS. It's through the Department of Justice. There's a Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act. And that grant is not available yet for 2021. This gives our agencies an opportunity to get the funding that they need to put this program in place. As well as we're hoping that in the new American Rescue Act, there may be some funding to assist as well. So with that, Mr. Chair and committee, we will close and we will open up for questions from the committee from any of the presenters that you may have.
Perfect. Thank you. So at this time, I'm going through the chat now, and we'll open it up for questions. I believe Assemblyman Ellison, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing this bill. I think this is a long time coming. It needed to be done. I know this is very emotional for a lot of the officers that have to bring this forward. And I've only got one question. And with this bill, is this for only active duties, or does some departments extend it on after they retire, that they do a yearly physical or something like this? Could you answer that? And then I got a follow-up.
Assemblywoman, I believe we still can't hear you. No, I can't hear you on my end. Members, can you hear her?
I can.
I don't believe we can hear you, Assemblywoman.
I think she might be muted on her laptop.
Yeah,
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. This bill would only address active duty peace officers, not those that are retired.
Okay.
However, I believe there is another piece of legislation that does address retirees that's going through the body now.
Yeah. Okay. And then if I could do a follow-up, sir?
Follow-up, please.
You know, I was involved with as a police commissioner for 10 years. And during that time, there was a shooting incident, and I kept requesting of the chief to these guys to get, you know, some kind of counseling. 2 took it, 1 refused because it was an option. And I think the 3rd officer really had a problem struggling after that. So I'm hoping maybe in the future that they can do mandatory counseling after an incident like that. And maybe that's something you might be able to bring later on at a different time.
Thank you. I know a number of departments have that in their standard operation policies, but it may not be in every department. So yes, thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And I thank you for the bill, and I think it's great. And we might be able to stop some of the suicide programs. Thank you.
And thank you, Assemblyman. Members, any additional questions?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please.
Assemblymember Anderson, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for bringing forward a timely and important bill. It totally makes sense to me. My question is more based upon Mr. Collins' testimony, as well as Assemblymember Roberts' statements. Are there options if a fellow police officer believes that somebody is suffering from a possible mental illness or mental breakdown? Are there ways to be able to recommend that they go see somebody between the times of these visits, or is that more of a local decision to be made?
If I may, I'll start and I'll let Mr. Collins weigh in. I will tell you, most police agencies have realized over the years that this is an issue, and most agencies have a police employee assistance program. So like at my department, at Metro, we've had this for probably 30 years. And so you can do referrals. So if somebody believes, like quite often, if you felt somebody through your own personal knowledge was having struggles at home or on the job or a variety of things, you noticed some behavior, you could tell the police employees assistance program. They had counselors that would reach out to those employees and actually do a contact. And to kind of follow up on Assemblyman Ellison's question, is that most police departments require a psychological visit anytime you're involved in critical use of force incident or any kind of other critical incident, so that you at least have that opportunity to talk to someone about it, and that we know you're prepared to come back to work. So there are a lot of avenues to do that, but the challenge quite often is a lot of people don't notice some of the issues, and you may not get that referral. So this one time a year would really put you in front of somebody for sure.
Thank you, Assemblymember Roberts, and also just wanted to make a quick comment to Assemblymember Monroe Moreno. I hope that when we have technology issues like that, all of us can handle it with such dignity. So thank you very much. You handled it very gracefully.
Next, we'll go to Assemblywoman Thomas, please.
Good morning, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to ask a question or two. I want to thank both presenters, Assembly members Monroe Moreno and Roberts. My one and only question is, I basically will be asking Assemblyman Roberts. This bill, have you presented it to leadership and with law enforcement, meaning throughout the state of Nevada, Metro, Washoe, whether or not they are excited about the wellness of their police officers and are behind this bill?
Actually, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno has done a lot of that work, and it'd probably be best for her to answer that.
Thank you, Assemblyman Roberts. This is Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe Moreno. I have been working on this piece of legislation for a number of months, and I've had a number of conversations with various agencies within our state. And will I say they're excited about it? What I have heard time and time again, and you will hear as they in the testimony later, support and opposition, is that almost everyone, every police chief, every sheriff, every officer that I spoke with felt that, yes, this was something that was needed. One, how are they going to pay for it? There's going to be a fiscal note that every department's going to have because it will impact their budget. The second was from line staff, will this be used as a tool against them? So while everyone agrees that it's something that we need, there's still some hesitation. And I hope that answers your question, Assemblywoman Thomas.
Yes, ma'am, it does, and thank you so much.
If
Thank you, Chair.
I may weigh in as well, I apologize, Mr. Chair. So many police departments, like at Metro, after October 1, and we contracted with local counselors because our police employee assistance program was actually overwhelmed by the number of contacts, and so we got an additional insurance policy that allows for extra visits, which has been carried over, and so many police departments have those same kind of policies in their workman's comp programs and things like that, where they actually have this counseling. So I think the changes for the amendment allow for the generic language that gives you flexibility in the type of visit, which would probably fall into something that is probably already covered by most agencies.
Again, thank you, sir, and thank you, Chair.
And thank you, Assemblywoman. Next, we'll go to Assemblywoman Considine.
Thank you, Chair Flores, for allowing the question. And I want to echo all of the sentiments that have already been stated about this incredibly needed bill. And I'm so grateful for Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno for bringing this forward. Especially grateful for a lot of the folks who have testified and making that connection between a system that values strength, especially if some of these police officers were prior military, and changing that system and removing that stigma, because mental health is still health. So I appreciate this bill for that level as well. I guess my question is, hearing that this might be moved to 2023, it hurts me just a little bit, because this is about valuing the mental health of the people who protect and serve us. And I think, helping these folks and giving them more tools to help them internally, as well as all of the tools we give them externally to do their job. I think it's very important that, if perhaps any of these departments would be able to find the money, move around budgets, or do anything, if you change this bill to not going into effect until 2023, would that still allow any of these police departments that can find that money to start this program earlier? Thank you.
Assemblyman Flores, this is Assemblywoman. Hold on one moment. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This is Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe Moreno, and to address Assemblywoman Captioning, yes, as mentioned by Assemblyman Roberts, there are a number of departments that are already putting things in place to help their officers. Going as far as hiring social workers to work with their PEP department to help their employees. So there are departments moving in this direction already, and by putting the date further out will not limit anyone from jumping on it right now. They could do it tomorrow if they find the funding. But knowing that we are coming out of the COVID pandemic, and every city and every department within our state are all hurting financially, it gives them that time that they may need if they cannot find the resources by the original date and the original drafting of the bill.
Thank you.
All right, members, I don't believe we have any additional questions at this time. And we'll go to those wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 336. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, do we know if we have anybody joining us virtually that wanted to testify in support of Assembly Bill 336?
Yes, I believe we have representatives from the Federal Police Officers Association on the line. Ms. Jean is on the line to testify in support, and Mr. Luke.
Perfect. We'll take them in that order. And they are joining us virtually, is that correct, Assemblywoman?
I believe they're by phone.
Oh, they're by phone? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So at this time, we'll go to the lines to those wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 336.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 336, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 774, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Eric James, E-R-I-C-J-A-M-E-S, and I'm just calling to give my support behind this bill, as I think it's something that is absolutely needed within our policing community. I'm currently the Deputy Chief at the University of Nevada Reno Police Department, Northern Command. And part of what we do up there is you all know, we have to have a physical every year to come back. And we've been saying for years that something that needs to be done is to also check the mental health of our officers. You've all heard the statistics behind how many officers die from felonious assault. And the scary thing is more die from suicide. Mental health is an absolute component, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, that we teach our officers and that are taught to the officers throughout Northern Nevada. And I think that having this bill pass, people will find funding to have this done because it's so very important. Thank you.
And thank you. We'll go to the next caller wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 336.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 725, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Chair Flores and Assemblywoman Manuel Moreno and committee members. My name is Nick Shepak, N-I-C-K-S-H-E-P-A-C-K. I am here representing the ACLU of Nevada. We are in strong support of this great bill presented by the Assemblywoman. As we continue to push for reforms in policing, we cannot lose sight of the fact that police are indeed people with extremely difficult jobs in which trauma can be a part of everyday life. We see mental health care as a necessary step to any sort of reform and to ensuring that our police are healthy and ready to do their jobs. This bill is a great step in that direction, ensuring that annual checkups for mental health will be given to all law officers throughout the state and ensuring that they will receive any help they need, keeping them safe, allowing them to return to their families, and helping them to better protect our communities. We hope you support this bill, even with the fiscal note that will be attached, as everyone in the state will benefit. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you. We'll continue with those wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 336. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 196, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chairman Flores and members of the committee. I'm Eric Spratley, E-R-I-C-S-P-R-A-T-L-E-Y. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association here in support of Assembly Bill 336, and we wish to express our support for Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno bringing this bill and the amendment that tries to make it work. I also want to personally thank her for her years of public service as a correctional officer, an often overlooked job that is vital to the public safety mission. I've heard a few concerns the past couple of weeks for what this bill might do negatively going forward, but I know what the next officer suicide will do. So anything we can do to try and stop that next suicide is something I personally support and our organization has expressed support for at many of our membership meetings recently. We need to get our cops talking about the monsters that haunt them and to do it in an environment that's safe to do so. I don't know what the perfect environment or timing of it is, and I've heard no one else providing solutions. So at least this bill is trying to propose the environment and the timing so that we may try and help the people on the front line serving us night and day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 336.
Caller with the last three digits of 080, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Jim Hoffman, Nevada Attorneys for Criminal Justice. NACJ supports AB 336. Policing is a difficult job, and we want to make sure that police officers stay healthy so that they're able to keep doing that job. This is why we encourage police to get an annual physical. But mental health is also important, and we want to make sure that police officers stay mentally healthy so that they don't develop problems that could ultimately hurt the public. Having an annual wellness visit is a way to make sure that both police officers and the general public remain safe and healthy, and so NACJ supports it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 336.
Caller with the last three digits of 318. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chair Flores and members of the committee. This is Kendra Birchie, Kendra Bertschy with the Washoe County Public Defender's Office. On behalf of my office as well as the Clark County Public Defender's Office, we want to thank Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno and Assemblyman Roberts for bringing forward this important piece of reform for the criminal justice system. We support this bill as part of the reform measures that we are trying to implement and enact this legislative session. I agree with the statements that were made before me. Unfortunately, in Northern Nevada, we have lost several police officers due to suicide, and hope that this will ensure that community members trust the members of law enforcement when they have interactions with them, but more importantly, benefit everyone in our community. So we appreciate this bill and hope that you will pass this legislation. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 336.
Caller with the last three digits of 683. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits of 683, please press *6 and slowly state and spell your name for the record. Caller with the last three digits of 087. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
For the record, my name is Jared Luke, Director of Government Affairs for the City of North Las Vegas, calling in support of Assembly Bill 336. Thank you, Chair Flores, Vice Chair Torres, and members of the committee. I would like to thank Assembly members Monroe Moreno and Roberts for bringing this bill forward. And if I could, real quick, just piggyback off of Assemblywoman Anderson and your cool under pressure, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, is admirable. I don't know if I could have handled it as well as you did with the tech issues. But back to my testimony, it's programs like this proposed under AB 336 that assist in decreasing the stigma that, unfortunately, is too often attached to those suffering from mental health issues. Should this bill pass, there will be a fiscal impact to the city as we adopt these programs. But we are grateful that the sponsors have identified various grant programs and that can be used to absorb future fiscal impact for municipalities, and we look forward to working closely with them if this bill progresses. The City of North Las Vegas understands that the intent of this bill is not to penalize peace officers. Rather, by combining with annual physical screenings, it aims to help repair any unseen injuries, if needed, to ensure peace officers can operate at a safe, optimal level, physically, mentally, and emotionally, both at work and at home. Thank you, Chair, for the time.
And thank you. Next caller wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 336.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 336, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Next, we'll go to those wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 336.
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 336, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 229, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chair Flores and committee. I'm Jamie Rodriguez, the Government Affairs Manager for Washoe County. That's spelled JamieRodriguez. I do want to start by thanking Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno for meeting with us yesterday regarding our concerns about the bill. We are very appreciative of the sponsor agreeing to move the effective date out so that we can plan, budget, and find some other funding options to help us offset those costs. We are very much so appreciative of the intent of the bill and take mental health of our employees very seriously. We have created a multitude of programs, including several peer support programs in our region, which we're actually sharing with some of the counterparts in Southern Nevada for them to create similar programs that we have seen be very effective. We are the concerns about the bill, fall under peace officer and the use of peace officer, which is a little bit broad in terms of who all that applies to. And while we're very appreciative of the need for mental health services for employees in some of these positions who do have to deal with and see things that the rest of us would not be able to manage. However, I also do want to put on the record that our fiscal note that was submitted is not correct. When we had originally read the bill, we made the mistake of thinking peace officer was just law enforcement and therefore the sheriff's office, and did not include the multiple other departments that would be impacted, such as alternative sentencing, juvenile services, and some of our district attorney investigators. And we do also appreciate the bill sponsor taking out the provision that requires the medical exam. Because peace officer is a little bit broad, not all of those individuals are required to have an annual medical exam. And so there was concerns about additional costs of now requiring all of them to have those annual physical exams. So we are working with the sponsor. We are working also to help get a better idea of what that impact is. But what we are hearing is the cost is about $200 annually for each peace officer. And we're trying to really determine exactly how many peace officers in Washoe County we have. Again, I really do want to thank Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno for meeting with us, listening to us, and understanding our concerns. Thank you, Chairman.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in opposition to Assembly Bill 336.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 739. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chairman Flores and members of the committee. Joanna Jacob, JOANNA-JACOB, Government Affairs Manager for Clark County. Chair Flores, we first also, like Ms. Rodriguez, want to thank Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno for meeting with us on this bill. And we know that we absolutely support the intent of this bill. This is something that we also take very seriously and invested in employment assistance programs, mental health benefits for our employees, peer support, just as Ms. Rodriguez noted. We want to continue to work with the Assemblywoman on this bill. We appreciate the amendments because, as Ms. Rodriguez noted, the definition of peace officer for counties is very broad. For Clark County, it will bring in our DA investigators, fire investigators, park police, juvenile parole officers, and family services. And then, so we are trying to plan and move towards this fundamental policy shift. We agree that it is very important. We have filed a fiscal note, but as Ms. Rodriguez noted, we may have to take a look at it to make sure that actually will capture who we need to capture. And I want to also note the costs for the county, we can plan for those costs. And especially with the move announced at the hearing about moving it out for us, it will help us to plan for these costs. We really want to work through the details of this bill that had came up in the history on who will perform the status check, how is that going to be shared with the patient or with the employer. We heard concerns about this from our own employees about it being punitive. We will need to work through that. I understand that that could probably be addressed in the regulations that are going to be promoted under this bill. We also have had some concerns, Chair Flores and Assemblywoman Moreno, about trying to find behavioral health providers for our employees, particularly to do these kinds of wellness checks in the past. It is incredibly difficult, as I know it is for everybody in Southern Nevada and even statewide, to find mental health providers. And so we need to work through that as well. So really opposed under the rules of the committee to the original bill language. We are working with the Assemblywoman on this and wanted to put those concerns on the record. Again, we will continue to work with the bill sponsors. Thank you.
And thank you for calling in. Next caller in opposition to Assembly Bill 336.
Caller with the last three digits of 863. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chair Flores and members of the committee. This is Dagny Stapleton, D-A-G-N-Y S-T-A-P-L-E-T-O-N. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Association of Counties, representing NACO today. We are opposed to the bill, but want to make it clear that we are not opposed to the policy or intent of the bill and absolutely understand what is driving the need for this legislation. We are concerned, as my colleagues from Clark and Washoe County noted, solely about the fiscal impact and wanted to put that on the record today. I want to echo the comments of Ms. Jacobs and Ms. Rodriguez about the impacts to counties and some of the things that need to be worked out in order for counties to implement this, including funding for it, and that those impacts are similar for the rest of the counties throughout the state. And I want to thank the sponsor as well for discussing the bill with us, for the amendment, and for her commitment to continue to work with us to address the fiscal impacts and find some funding to ensure that we could pay for these wellness visits. Thanks so much, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in opposition to Assembly Bill 336.
Chair, there are no more callers in opposition at this time.
At this time, we'll go to the neutral position on Assembly Bill 336.
To testify in the neutral position on Assembly Bill 336, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is Chuck Callaway, C-A-L-L-A-W-A-Y. I am the Director of Intergovernmental Services for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. This is a very important bill, and we're here neutral today. We certainly support the concept of the bill, and we are very, very serious about the mental health of our employees and their wellness. I've been a police officer for 32 years myself, and so I fully understand the stress that our officers are under on a day-to-day basis. And the 31 people that Assemblyman Roberts mentioned, some of those folks were close friends of mine as well. Our concern with some of the language in the bill is more logistical and how it will roll out once passed, what exactly would be involved in the evaluation, what's the criteria for the evaluation. I know that the language in the bill puts Post in a position to establish that criteria, but would the evaluation be a pass-fail type of a thing, or is it merely an opportunity for officers to have a dialogue with a professional and voluntarily receive assistance or resources that are available to them, and then what is the follow-up required after the fact. If these questions can be adequately answered, we will be in full support of the bill, and we look forward to working with Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno moving forward. So thank you, and be happy to answer questions if there are any. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go to next caller wishing to testify in the neutral position.
Caller with the last three digits of 789. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, committee. For the record, my name is Dr. David Green. I'm the Mental Health Director for the Nevada Department of Corrections. I think I'd like to first start by saying what a pleasant surprise it was hearing from Chief Freeman and Officer Rodriguez. I have many, many fond memories working with them at the detention center. NDOC is very interested in this legislation. It's been very helpful listening into the conversation. I think we understand its intent better. Like the previous caller, I'm wondering if the chair would be willing to entertain a question.
I'm sorry, a question to whom?
If the chair is willing to entertain a question regarding the legislation.
Who are you addressing the question to?
The chair of the committee.
I'm sorry, I don't think I understand. Wait, you want to refer a question to myself during a hearing for where the Assemblywoman and the co-presenters are present? It's their bill.
The question we have
to them.
The question we have is the standards referred to in the bill. Are those standards going to be outlined in the bill, or does each agency determine what their standards are going to be?
And Assemblywoman, I don't know if you wanted to respond to that, or anybody else, please. And Assemblywoman, I don't believe we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the chance to speak.
We're trying to get the Assemblywoman to jump on.
Chair Flores,
Okay,
can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please.
This is Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe Moreno, and the caller is correct. It is not decided in the legislation. That would be part of the regulation process that post would do. And the reason it was changed to the wellness visit, it was to make it more flexible. Each department has its own unique situations, the amount of officers they have, and their unique needs. This gives post the flexibility that it will need to create those regulations so that departments statewide can create a program that's best suited for their department. And I hope that answers the caller's question.
Thank you, it does. I appreciate it.
And thank you. We'll go to the next caller wishing to testify in the neutral position.
Caller with the last three digits of 932. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Scott Edwards. I am the president of the Las Vegas Peace Officers Association and a member of the Public Safety Alliance of Nevada, representing nearly 10,000 officers throughout the state of Nevada. I currently work as a corrections officer for the city of Las Vegas, but as representing the union and PSAN, our concerns center around what will happen to the officer. The stigma of a negative psych eval can be detrimental to an officer's mental status. This can be further complicated by a department who is not sympathetic to an officer's situation. If it sounds good, it feels good, but the implementation based off the agency may not be perfect. We're here in neutral because we have these concerns. If there's a negative psych eval, will it be listed as workers' comp? Will the officer be allowed to continue working? If they're not allowed to continue to work, will they be compensated during that time? If not, that could further complicate the problems. How long will someone be out on light duty if they're placed out on light duty? Currently in my department, we recently had an officer who was diagnosed with cancer less than a year ago, and they were called on a Thursday telling them that they had to process out on a Monday because their application had been received by PERS for a medical retirement, even though it was not going to be heard until the middle of April. So will this be treated like medical situations and somebody's going to be pushed out because it's not considered work-related? Or if it is work-related, we go back to the workers' comp issue. One of the things that I think should be stated is this going to be a voluntary session? Is this something that's going to be a burden to an individual department, a small department like Eureka, that may not have the ability or the finances? I know Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno is working on some grants and greatly appreciative of that. Will an officer be able to just go into one of these assessments and just say, no, I'm good, everything is fine, and that will suffice? So with that, that's our neutral position. I do want to thank Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno and Assemblyman Roberts for bringing this, and certainly my former chief, Michelle Freeman. We've talked about this on many occasions, and I think the intention is good. It's the logistics of working it out that's the problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll go to the next caller wishing to testify in the neutral position, Assembly Bill 336.
Testify in the neutral position on Assembly Bill 336. Please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in the neutral position at this time.
Thank you. And lastly, we'll close it out with Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. Any closing remarks you may have?
Chair Flores, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Chair Flores, and thank you, committee, for giving me and my co-presenters the opportunity to present this bill. I can remember hearing some similar comments, complaints, and objections when this body discussed and debated the use of body cameras just a few sessions back. I've had a number of conversations, as you've heard from the callers who called in, with organizations that called in opposition and some that called in neutral. But at the end of the day, a few of the things that they brought up, will this be an evaluation? And the answer is no. The intent of the legislation is to have a discussion. And that discussion would only be brought back to the attention of the department if the officer in that discussion was displayed any incidents or feelings of hurting himself, herself, or others. This is simply a discussion to give that officers an opportunity to get to the healing that they may not have gone for without it. Would it be an annual requirement? Yes, because it may only be that one time that the officer during the course of a year gets an opportunity to talk to a behavioral health care specialist. In the drafting of this legislation and the stakeholder group to put the verbiage together, I had marriage and family therapists, substance use disorder specialists, and a number of behavioral health care professionals. And I heard from line officers that they wanted it to be a diverse group. And that is what I've been working with, to put together a list of professionals within our state that police departments and agencies would have readily available of who they could go to if needed. But when you talk about money, we all have budgets, and we have to make priorities. We have to decide what we will and what won't be part of our budget. Currently, Nevada Post is to certifies, qualifies our peace officers, category 1, 2, and 3 peace officers. They have a standard for continued education for peace officers, and that includes racial profiling, mental health, the well-being of officers, implicit bias recognition, de-escalation, human trafficking, and firearms. AB 336 is the natural next step in addressing and promoting officer wellness. Will this legislation cost money? Yes. Yes, it will. Will this legislation be an adjustment for police officers and the agencies that they work for? Yes, it will. Will some administrators try to use this piece of legislation as a tool to dismiss an officer? I hope not, and I pray not. But I'm no fool. I know that that is a possibility. But you have to ask yourself, can this legislation save lives? And that answer is yes. Could it prevent a suicide? Yes. Could it prevent a homicide? Yes. Could it be a tool to save on the investment that has been made by every law enforcement agency within this state? Yes. AB 336 is a bill that addresses both officers' emotional and mental health, but it's also police reform. It says police reform because it can change the culture of our law enforcement community. It aids in removing the stigma associated with mental health, and it will go a long way in rebuilding community trust and foster the rebuilding of relationships. By passing AB 336, we are saying that Nevada's peace officers' emotional and mental health is just as important as their physical health. It's a priority. And it's a priority by us saying that Nevada's families, the communities our communities and the families in our communities and the officers that serve those communities are a priority. And yes, Nevada may be the first or one of the first states to pass legislation like this. But we've been the first in so many other areas, so let's be the first in this one as well. I thank you, Mr. Chair and committee, for hearing AB 336, and I urge your support.
Thank you, Assemblywoman, for your passion in bringing forth so many stakeholders to this very vital and important conversation. I think the committee echoes your sentiment, and I hear the opposition in those who call the neutral disguised as neutral and we're in opposition. But I think we've often heard that conversation where the implementation is hard, but that should never be a reason not to do anything. Of course, implementation will be difficult. We're engaging in a conversation where we're not addressing a very serious concern for our women and men in law enforcement. And so for anybody to come in to try to derail and kill a bill because implementation is hard will not be tolerated by this committee. So we look forward to working with our women and men in law enforcement. Assemblywoman, thank you for working with everybody. I know you'll continue to do so, and we hope to be a partner with you on this great policy. So with that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Assembly Bill 336. And I need to jump to take care of a bill that I am working on. And so I am going to hand over the virtual gavel for the next hearing to Vice Chair Torres. Vice Chair Torres, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, committee. So at this moment, we'll go ahead and open the hearing on AB 313. I think Assemblywoman Hanson is already in the Zoom. You may proceed.
Thank you, Vice Chair Torres and Government Affairs Committee. It's my pleasure to be here today. I know you've had a long morning, so we'll be respectful of your time. For the record, I am Alexis Hanson, representing Assembly District 32. I think people look at me and go, why do you have another HOA bill? I had one as a freshman, and now I have another one. But I see this bill, in my opinion, as I did in the last session, as a win-win for both unit owners or those who live in HOAs and for the HOA Association itself. I am here to present Assembly Bill 313, and there is a conceptual amendment I hope that you've all had a chance to take a look at that's loaded to Nellis that I brought forward to remove sections 5 and 6. This bill is originally started as an electronic voting bill, but toward the end of the deadline, I did agree to bring in some other sections, mainly the ones that are in 7 through 10 that deal with some streamlining, some bookkeeping processes for the association themselves. I'm here today to present AB 313, which authorizes electronic voting related to common interest communities. All members of a common interest community association contribute financially to their association. But for many, that is the extent of their involvement in the operations of the association. The bill is about removing some of the barriers to their participation in their own association. Electronic voting may be the easiest way to ensure common interest community association members are all heard. With me today, here to help present as a resource, is Miss Lori Olson. She's an acquaintance that I belong to an organization with, and in having a conversation, she brought to my attention kind of the genesis for why I agreed to carry this bill. Also, Mr. Garrett Gordon, who is an attorney and represents a variety of clients that also include common interest communities, and also Adam Clarkson, an attorney whose practice of law is primarily dedicated to representing community associations. If, with your permission, Chair, if we could proceed with having maybe Ms. Olson go first, and she could give the genesis of the need for this bill. And then to Mr. Gordon, he could walk through the bill. And then Mr. Clarkson is here as a resource as well for answering questions, as well as Mr. Gordon.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Ms. Olson, if you could go ahead.
Good morning. I assume you can hear me. Thank you, Vice Chair Torres. And I am Lori Olson, Lorrieolson. I've been a Nevada Community Association Manager since 2000 and a Supervising Community Association Manager since 2006. I first want to thank Assemblywoman Hanson for sponsoring AB 313. We're very grateful for her understanding and support. I previously served as a Community Association Manager for 6 years on site, 7 years as a Portfolio Manager, and now have been on site at Callan Ranch since March of 2012. I have the Professional Community Association Management designation from Community Associations Institute, along with the Large Scale Managers designation. I've been facilitating board member elections in Nevada for over 20 years, with none of the elections ever been challenged or disputed. The 2-envelope system, accompanied by a paper ballot, is antiquated, as it is time-consuming and very costly. Nevada is one of only a few states who does not allow for online board member elections. The annual cost to Callan Ranch exceeds $11,000, with less than 20% of the 2,400 plus ballots we mail being returned. Less than 20%. There are printing, copying, collating, stuffing, and mailing costs. Larger associations such as Callan Ranch need to utilize the services of a printing and mailing house, since the time to copy, collate, and stuff over 2,400 envelopes with approximately 70 pages printed as required by NRS 116, along with 2 envelopes and a paper ballot, is time prohibitive and puts a great strain on our office machines and staff. In 2020, our annual cost exceeded $13,000. Since we directed the owners to mail their postage prepaid envelopes to our CPA firm. Again, the return was less than 20%, and that was with prepaid postage envelopes. This puts an even larger burden on smaller HOAs. They're forced to either pay the management company to compile and mail their annual election packet or a mailing house. Either way, they're charged for copies, envelopes, stuffing, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, management companies are not in the business of losing money, so their charges are understandably above cost. Regardless of the size of the HOA, some management companies require a printing or mailing house to complete the annual election packet, so the HOA may not have an option. Unfortunately, Nevada has experienced profound fraud with their board member elections. Allowing for online voting will help to maintain the integrity of any election, since paper ballots can easily be used to commit mail fraud, as unfortunately has happened in the past in Nevada. There are a few national companies who have been and continue to conduct secure, confidential, and affordable online elections. I'm confident that offering the online voting option will save Callan Ranch thousands of dollars each year we have the need for a secret ballot. Owners should be offered the option to vote online or to request a paper ballot and envelopes from the HOA. As managers, we understand that everyone is not tech savvy. Annual election packets will still need to be mailed, but they will not contain a secret ballot or 2 envelopes. Therefore, the printing, copying, collating, stuffing, and mailing costs are expected to decrease exponentially. Thank you for your time, and I'm available to answer questions.
You, Ms. Olson. I believe there's another presenter. Is that correct, Assemblywoman?
Yes, we have Mr. Gordon, Garrett Gordon, if he could be allowed to walk through the bill, and he'll do that quickly. And then also Adam Clarkson is on in the Zoom as well for questions. If they could turn their cameras on, they might have. I just can't see it from here.
Yes, most definitely. Go ahead, Mr. Gordon.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Garrett Gordon. I'm a lawyer at the law firm of Lewis Roca, today representing CAI, who is the Community Association Institute. They have over 1,700 members, and we represent over 3,000 HOA communities in Nevada. Also, for the record, today representing Southern Highlands Homeowners Association, a 10,000 unit master plan community in Clark County. We just want to first thank the sponsor, Assemblywoman Hanson, for bringing the bill and including a few of our sections. We really appreciate it. And also for the chair and vice chair for hearing our bill today. The bill consists of really 3 sections now that, or 3 topics now that the insurance sections were removed. Sections 1 through 4 deal with electronic voting. The goal here is really to make it easier to vote in HOA elections, and certainly during a pandemic. We'd like to try to involve as many homeowners as possible in the election process, and giving them the ability to do it electronically, we think will hopefully increase turnout in all associations across the state. The next section or topic is automatic payments. Many of us use automatic payments in our daily lives to pay our utility bills, to pay credit card bills, and for whatever reason in the statute, it's kind of dated. That ability for associations is currently not there. It has been certainly burdensome in the times of the pandemic to go chase around a board member or 2 for signatures on paper checks. We think just being able to automate that system at the board's discretion is important. And finally, the third kind of category or topic is transfer. What happens when a HOA decides to transfer management companies? They hired company A and then decides to move forward with company B. What happens with all the books and records? It's a little bit ambiguous currently in the statute. There's a 30-day requirement to turn over materials, and it's a little questionable when that starts, when it ends, and how to efficiently turn over the files and the books and records when and certainly include sensitive information when a new management company is hired. So what we're proposing is let's delegate some authority to the Common Interest Community Commission to hold workshops with homeowners, with management companies, with HOAs, to really get some good community and industry feedback of how that transition should work. And then they would codify or implement some regulations. So that's the 3 real topics of the bill. Vice Chair Torres, Adam Clarkson, who is a HOA attorney and was appointed to the state HOA task force. He helped draft the language of the bill, which was then sent to LCB, who did a phenomenal job putting pen to paper. He can get very technical if you'd like to go through any specific language or section by section, or otherwise we'll just stand for questions. And again, appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. And I believe you're ready for questions, if I understand correctly. So I'll open it up to questions from the committee. I'll give you a moment if there are any. All right, I will go over to Assemblywoman Brown-May.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you very much for bringing this forward. As a former president of my homeowners association many years ago, I understand the complexity of the voting and how we have to communicate. I have 2 questions. Can the homeowner elect the preferred method, or would only one method be available? I know that in my community, some homeowners prefer to have mailing ballots. The others preferred electronic payments. I'm just curious to know if there's one set standard that is expected or if all of the above can be included. And then are there multiple languages that are identified or recommended for homeowners' ballots? Are we communicating with people of varied backgrounds?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Assembly Member, through the Vice Chair. Let me take a stab at that, and then I can turn over to Mr. Clarkson to get any specific details. But as the bill is written, it's purely voluntary. It's up to the board. They can either opt in and decide to choose to go with the electronic voting route, or they can stick with the paper route. It's purely up to them on a case by case basis. Mr. Clarkson, would you like to jump in on any specific comments related to that question?
Hi, this is Adam Clarkson. I was going to say that's absolutely correct, Mr. Garrett. The bill is very broad. We have anticipated that it will essentially default to the notice process under NRS 116-31068, which allows for the delivery of notices to homeowners electronically where they have provided electronic address. And we anticipate that where they do not have electronic address or they request a written ballot, that they would still be able to get that done. The genesis for our change came from NRS 311, which already allows for the option of electronic or paper voting for associations. It just doesn't include elections or recalls, which this one expands to that. And to your question about whether or not these come out in different languages, the law currently does not address any requirements for different languages. So I believe most of these are uniformly going out in English.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Assemblywoman. Next, I have Assemblywoman Thomas.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And thank you, Assemblywoman Hanson, for this presentation. My question actually is to deal with the voting. As a HOA homeowner and member, my concern is the security of the ballot. How do you secure electronically my secret ballot? And what program would be designed to ensure that others couldn't hack into there and, wipe out any voting that I might or others in my HOA have actually voted on?
This is Adam Clarkson. I'll take that question if that's all right. Thank you, Assemblywoman Thomas. The security protocols for electronic voting, as I mentioned earlier, currently under NRS 116-311, we have electronic voting with everything except for elections. And 311 really doesn't provide for a security protocol. And when we made this change, the conceptual change to create this electronic voting for elections and removals, which the LCB did a really good job of putting into this document and into AB 303, we simply tracked largely giving associations and basically followed what we already had in NRS 116-311. However, I would note and agree that it potentially could be a very good amendment to this bill, and to add some sort of requirements and add some expectations, whether it be broad or tracking some other states. We could look at what some of the other states have done with those, but certainly it's really broad right now, which was somewhat intentional to allow every association access to this, but we understand your concerns, and that sounds like a potential good amendment to revise this bill. Thank you.
Vice Chair.
So go to Mr. Gordon if you're okay with that, Assemblywoman Thomas, and then I think you have a follow-up, and we can answer that after Mr. Gordon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair, and to the Assemblywoman. Yeah, I just was going to concur with Mr. Clarkson. A couple of your colleagues had the same question regarding security, which is obviously important. There's 21 other states who have incorporated electronic voting. So our idea was to kind of reach out to those statutes and see what they've done. Certainly it's a balance in that we don't want to put too many protocols or requirements, what would be very costly. So it would kind of prohibit the ability for a smaller association to comply. But certainly on the other hand, you certainly want fair and private and secure elections. I'm also told that there are a number, given other states have already approved this, there's a number of vendors out there that HOAs would use and hire to run these elections electronically who do have that security software in place. But let us do a little bit more research on that issue and be happy to follow up with you and the committee.
Thank you, and I would appreciate the follow-up. And Vice Chair, that's what I was going to ask for, the data. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And I think I have next Assemblywoman Anderson. But before we go to Assemblywoman Anderson, I know I have several new members that are on this call and awaiting additional floor training. And just so you know, I believe that Ms. Furlong will be sending out an email for when that training will occur, so that you have no need to leave the meeting early if you choose to stay. All right, so we have next Assemblywoman Anderson. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chair Torres, and thank you, Assemblymember Hampson, for joining us this morning for the bill. My question has to do with, it's on page 15, and I was trying to figure out what subsection and stuff. So I think it's 4.7D, and it's mentioned a few times that the counting of the ballots does not require a quorum. And before, when it was a written ballot, there was still that evidence. So it still kind of touches upon a little bit about what Assemblymember Thomas was just bringing up. But what are the safeguards to make sure that there is not somebody that just decides, hey, I'm going to take a look at these now, and then turn around and make sure that other people know what I realize that we need to go by trust, but unfortunately, without there being a quorum or other people present, what are the safeguards present to make sure that there is not some early counting?
Vice Chair, Assemblywoman Anderson, this is Adam Clarkson. I'll take that question. That's all right. So for clarification, currently there are no quorum requirements for the elections or recalls. So a recall and election does not require a quorum at this time. It just like a budget ratification doesn't require a quorum at a community association. They do, however, have safeguards in place with the physical counting. The ballots have to be opened in front of the members. So when you're mentioning safeguards for current method, there is that requirement that they're not allowed to be touched by anyone that's up for election or anyone related to them. They're also not allowed to be opened up until the meeting. They have to all be open during the meeting. So they have to be open during the meeting. Witnesses are present. That way anybody can see that and nobody can touch if they're involved. With respect to the electronic process, we have not added particular safeguards for this. Again, this also sounds like something that may be a good change for the amendment. The process that we had established right now was that the matter was going to be read into the record. There is, of course, the general obligation of good faith, but putting in some additional processes, perhaps tied to how the other states are doing them, could be another addition. So this will be another thing we'll note to look into with what other states are doing, so that folks aren't getting early access to the election results. And a lot of times, I mean, we could look at maybe third parties handling them and other things like that. But certainly, again, another good suggestion for an amendment for this one.
Thank you, Mr. Clarkson. And then my other question, I just wanted to verify that I had heard correctly, that it's up to the board to make the decision whether the vote would be done by ballot, by paper ballot, or by online, or is it up to the members of the homeowners association? I just I thought I'd heard that from Assemblymember Brown May's question, but if you could verify that it's up to the board, not up to the people that are members of the homeowners association.
Thank you, Vice Chair Assemblywoman Anderson. This is Adam Clarkson. Currently, as drafted, it would be discretionary for the board, whereas it is also similarly discretionary currently for any other situation where they want to use electronic or paper voting. We simply track the language that exists in NRS 16311, which does largely allow it to be discretionary. However, there are implicit, if not express, limitations on that, which are that NRS 116-31068 requires the association, they have to provide these communications in a reasonable basis. So if homeowners have not provided an electronic address, the board would still have to go with the traditional paper ballot because they would not have another option under this section. Similarly, if we mentioned earlier, someone requested it, potentially that would be something that we'd look at. So again, this could be another place where we add some clarification, something in this bill that's going to specify the right for an option for a homeowner to get that right for paper ballot, just so that there's no debate in the future. That could certainly be another ideal amendment for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clarkson, and thank you, Vice Chair Torres, for the time.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. The next I have on my list is Assemblywoman Considine.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you for the gentleman who just spoke. Thank you for maybe following up with a little bit more clarification, because when I was reading that same section where it says paper or electronic, I didn't know if that meant that as a homeowner, especially let's say in some areas where there are seniors, even if the senior has an email address, how often do they check it? Can they individually opt for a paper ballot? Can somebody opt for paper ballot, but then if they live half the year elsewhere, opt for electronic? Those were some of the clarifying questions that I was going to ask, but I think those were kind of asked, and you mentioned, Mr. Clarkson, that maybe doing a little bit more clarification. But so my question now is, I'm just a little confused on page 12, the bottom of page 12, starting at line 39. This is in section 3, subsection, I guess, 9. An association may conduct a vote without a meeting, including, without limitation, a vote for the election or removal of a member of the executive board. Just wanted to know, one, why is that listed in the NRS section for proxy votes? I might just be missing that. And then, is that usual practice? I mean, it looks like that, the language that was taken out, it says unless prohibited or limited by the declaration or bylaws. Does this mean that any individual homeowners association cannot now say no if we're going to remove somebody by a vote that may even be electronic, we can remove them without actually having a meeting?
Thank you, Vice Chair and Assemblywoman Considine. This is again Adam Clarkson. So NRS 116-311 is a section, it addresses a lot of different issues, addresses voting. It's titled Voting by Units Owners, Use of Absentee Ballots and Proxies, Voting by Leasees of Leased Units, Association Prohibited from Voting as the Owner of Unit, and Voting Without a Meeting. And I realize that's not listed in the actual document itself, but that is, if you pull up NRS 116, that is the title of this section. And we do have a lot of parts that are in NRS 116 are hidden all over the place, as many of you probably noticed if you read it before. So what we did here is we addressed the change, as I mentioned, we addressed the change in a manner that was intended to track the current language with respect to generally voting electronically. Now, one of the things that we also changed here that's important, and you've really dialed into this issue, which is we changed the right to do it. We basically flipped it to where there was a limitation. So an association's declaration or bylaws could have restricted the manner in which an association was able to do an electronic vote. And we have associations, I have clients that are as old as, they've had associations since 1925. So some of their original declarations and bylaws don't really contemplate electronic voting, as you would imagine. So we basically made it to where any association here in Nevada would be able to take advantage of this statute and they would be able to utilize it. So it's pushing this to where it's giving an option for all associations, regardless of what their governing documents provide. So that's part of the reason it's in there. It does, as you pointed out, it does land right beside the proxy section, but this is not really a proxy. This is a actual vote.
Madam Vice Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Gordon.
Yeah, thank you again, Assemblywoman, for the question. Again, Garrett Gordon for the record. So just wanted to make the record clear. Number one, the board can opt in to electronic voting. And even if they opt in and choose that method, any homeowner can opt into still a written ballot. So just because a board says we're going electronic voting, a homeowner who doesn't have an email address or doesn't want to move forward with electronic voting can always request a paper ballot. And we're going to clean up that or clarify that language because you and a couple of your colleagues have had that same comment for clarification. So really appreciate that input. And two, the question you mentioned about no meeting for removal of a board member, that is current law. But you're absolutely right. There seems to maybe be a missing link there with regards to having a meeting and having a discussion about why a board member would be removed. Again, a couple of your colleagues had the same issue and said, while we have this statute open, maybe we put in there the right to request a meeting if they feel like they shouldn't be removed and want to make their case for not being removed. So in our kind of conceptual amendment, we're thinking through we're going to address that issue. So thank you for bringing it up. And I think it's a good one to handle while we have the statute open. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice Chair, may I ask a follow-up?
Yes, please, Assemblywoman.
Thank you. So this is not necessarily something that is addressed in this bill, but as we're having this conversation, I'm wondering if if the move is towards electronic, is there anywhere in here or has there been any discussion about then having a streaming homeowners associations meetings so that instead of a situation where you can have a meeting with no one present, that you could stream those or those could be available for people to attend online? And I know that might not be part of this, but it was just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Assemblywoman. This is Adam Clarkson. Thank you for the question. Currently under Chapter 82, which applies where NRS 116 is silent, community associations are allowed to have their meetings electronically. So our Nevada community associations have, during COVID, been running meetings through Zoom and through other platforms. They do, however, meetings are private. They're not public meetings like this meeting. So they are directing them through manners. So folks are getting logins just like they get logins for this meeting. They're getting logins through their community association. Community association sending out the notice and sending them the contact information because they're not in a position to live stream them, say, for example, through YouTube or another fully accessible portion, because that goes out broadly, and community associations are private nonprofit corporations, so they are keeping their business closed in-house. But that is a great idea, and it's something that is generally available now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know I used the word streaming, but I did kind of mean exactly how you said it, a closed meeting. But if we're talking about access and we're talking about folks' ability to vote, I'm all for making voting easier and for everybody to be able to participate. So thank you for that. It's good to know.
And I see that the chair has returned. I believe that Assemblyman Matthews is next, if the chair will entertain.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, for taking control of the meeting for me there for a second. Assemblyman Matthews, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want a quick comment. I just wanted to thank the committee members, especially Assemblywoman Thomas, for the really good line of questioning regarding ballot security, and also appreciate the answers from Mr. Gordon and Mr. Clarkson. Obviously, election integrity, ballot security, whether it's an election for HOA or for political office, very, very crucial. So I just wanted to say how much I appreciated that. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Members, any additional questions? Next, if we could please go to Assemblywoman Brown May.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Just one follow-up from earlier. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to paint a very quick picture. The homeowners association where I became president was in an area of town where it was a brand new townhome community that cost less than $85,000 to get a 3-bedroom home. And so many people who had never had access to purchasing a home lived in that community. There were multiple languages, as I stated. And so as the president of the board, we worked really, really hard to make sure that all of our homeowners were engaged in that process. And so thanks for hearing us as we talk about options for people to be able to opt in. I think that giving the homeowners the opportunity to tell us how they want to receive their ballots is going to be the most important. But then I'd also like to throw in there perhaps including an option for a homeowner to identify a language that is beneficial to themselves. That would be another consideration. And I just want to throw that out there for people to consider as we look at amending this document. Thank you very much.
Chair Flores, if I may, Garrett Gordon.
Please.
Thank you, and good to see you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman. I think that's a great idea. It's been mentioned a couple of times in this hearing. So in our conceptual amendment, we'll look at the language opt-in and see if we can't craft something that's agreeable to the committee. So thank you.
Thank you. Members, I don't think we have any additional questions at this time. And so I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 313 to please join us at this time. Broadcast.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 313, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 097, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning. My name is Laura Nittmeyer-Garrell, LARA-KNIPMEYER-Garrell, GARRELL. And I am testifying on behalf of the Community Associations Institute Legislative Action Committee. As a licensed and practicing community manager for nearly 16 years now, back in February 2020, I oversaw a secret ballot opening process where over 70 homeowners were in attendance of the meeting. When the ballot opening process began, it then took over 2 hours to open, count, and double check the final tally of ballots. This particular ballot opening task lasted well past 8 p.m. I am in support of Assembly Bill 313, specifically electronic voting, as this will save homeowners time and money, as well as provide a safe and much easier way to vote given the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller in support of Assembly Bill 313.
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to go to those wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 313.
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 313, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 701, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning. My name is Mike Kozar, K-O-S-O-R.
I'm calling in opposition to AB 313. But to be clear, I am in favor and appreciate legislation that would make it easier for homeowners to access and be involved in their community and reduce costs, which I believe, when properly constructed, AB 313 may in fact do. However, currently as written, the bill is not ready for prime time, and I believe based on the questions provided by this committee, there are a number of issues that still remain and need to be addressed before this bill moves forward. Security is certainly high on the list. How it is administered and by whom and under what rules, and whether it's discretionary for the board or not, obviously needs to be addressed. And then I would be real cautious about this bill as written would override the CCNRs and require homeowners to actually opt into a process. Again, another one that needs to be considered very closely. So I am in opposition as written, but want to make it clear that I think the objective as started out is probably what we need to continue to pursue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll go to those wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 313.
Chair, there are no more callers in opposition at this time.
Great. We'll go to those wishing to testify in the neutral position, Assembly Bill 313.
To testify in the neutral position on Assembly Bill 313, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hi, this is Bailey Bordelin with the Nevada Coalition of Legal Service Providers. I just wanted to note that we did have concerns with the original Section 5, but after speaking with Assemblywoman Hanson, that piece has been removed, and we appreciate being on the same page there and have no remaining concerns with the bill. Thank you.
And thank you. Next caller wishing to testify in the neutral position to Assembly Bill 313.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 187, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chairman Flores, Assemblywoman Hanson. My name is Chavez Foger, spelled Charvez, last name Foger, Foger, and I'm the ombudsman representing the Nevada Real Estate Division, Common Interest Communities, and Condominium Hotels. I just have a couple things. I want to make sure the committee understands that the changes in NRS 116A may also need to be amended in NRS 116B, which is often omitted. Based on the presentations this morning, my office may have some concerns that we will send to the committee for review later on today or tomorrow. Thank you.
And thank you. The next caller wishing to testify in the neutral position for Assembly Bill 313.
Chair, there are no more callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll come back to Assemblywoman Hanson. Any closing remarks you may have?
Thank you, Chair Flores, and I'll make it quick. I know you've had a long morning. Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair Torres, for this hearing. And certainly we know, and we've been down this path before, that when you bring an HOA bill, it's a collaborative effort. And I have made note and am very encouraged by the comments and the suggestions for amending from Assemblywoman Thomas on the security issues, from Assemblywoman Constantine on the board member having the option to be available for removal, and also Assemblywoman Brown May's request perhaps to identify languages. So thank you so much for your input. This is how we get good legislation, and I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to your support when we can get there with a win-win for those who live in HOA communities and for those who need to streamline their processes in the HOA community associations. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Members, for those of you who are in your first term, I know that you are all being summoned down to the floor for your legislative training. Members of the public, we're going to go to public comment, but don't take them leaving as a sign of disrespect, as they have to go and address the requirements of some training that they have to take care of. So thank you, members. If we can at this time go to public comment. Broadcast, please. I want to remind those of you, I'm sorry, those of you calling in for public comment, I just want to remind you that this is not the time to reopen a hearing. This is the time for you to talk about general matters that fall within the general purview of this committee. I will encourage you and wish for you to speak, but please do not try to reopen a hearing. Broadcast, please.
To take place in the public comment queue, please press *9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits of 701, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Yes, once again, good morning. My name is Mike Kozar, K-O-S-O-R. I am a longtime board member of an HOA. The discussion earlier of AB 313 was that it be opened up and potentially address some other issues within the area of HOA 116. One in particular that comes to mind is the issue that I would wish this committee would look at is the longstanding controversial issue about when major contracts of an HOA are to be bid out. The language in 116 remains very vague. There is a NRED opinion back in September 11th, which tries to define what when practical means and what it means. However, if you talk to the various HOA attorneys, they're all over the map as to when it is required or not. And most importantly, when a board elects on the rare occasions they do not to follow and not bid out major contracts, then it is very difficult to hold them accountable. I wish this committee would look at potentially shoring up the language of that, and also that in NAC 116-405 when it deals with the issue of bidding out major contracts of HOA. Thank you for your time.
And thank you. We'll go to the next caller for public comment.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 556. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIE-GRANT. My brother Thomas Purdy, like George Floyd, was asphyxiated by police, Reno Police and Washoe County Sheriff's Office during a mental health crisis as he pleaded, please, guys, please don't do this. The officers thought enough to get a handheld video camera, but not to call an ambulance for my brother who was in clear medical distress. 3 years ago today, March 31st, 2018, 21-year-old Nicholas Sedano was shot by Reno Police Officer Christopher Rose. Nicholas was unarmed. DA Chris Hicks did not release his report justifying the shooting until 9/11/2020. That's 2.5 years later. That family had to wait for any type of information because when your loved one is killed by police, it's a blue wall of silence that you encounter. My heart goes out to victims of police murder and anybody killed unjustifiably by another human being. And people need to recognize that my family are victims just as much as those who are killed by somebody not wearing a badge. If anything, we need to hold police officers wearing a badge to a higher standard. If there were consequences like jail time, they would think twice about acting recklessly, negligently like they did with my brother. As you heard today, law enforcement are a danger to themselves when their mental welfare is not in check. Now imagine them armed and legally able to kill without consequence. Officer Ryan Patterson killed Micaiah Lee 1/5/2020. Shortly before that, he killed community member Jose Dominguez 4/28/19. Perhaps if he hadn't been dumped right back on the street after his paid vacation of probably a week, if that, and got some mental health care, Micaiah might be alive. Please don't support bills that protect police officers. Please support bills that promote transparency and accountability from those who can already kill without consequence. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in. Next caller wishing to call in, for public comment.
Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no more callers at this time.
Thank you. Members, I appreciate the dialogue today. As you saw, the hearings are getting progressively longer. So I don't know that our start time will continue to work unless we start limiting the amount of questions to one question per member on each hearing, so that we could allow for the flow of the hearing to go a little bit better, and also limiting the amount of presenters perhaps on the back end of it. But we will definitively for sure go Monday at 9 a.m. and then we may have to change the start times for the rest of the week after that. I want to remind you that tomorrow we're going to hear Assembly Bills 245, Assembly Bill 325, and Assembly Bill 365. Give yourself an opportunity to read those bills ahead of the hearing. Today, in honor of Cesar Chavez Day, I'd like to adjourn in honor of his legacy and his work for the hardworking folk in this country and everything he represents and bringing folk together. So with that, this meeting's adjourned.